So I'm an only child. Little known fact, I grew up with a single parent actually, raised by a very, very strong and formidable mother. So that's my background. I always tell this story that I was born in Mutare. Absolutely love the Eastern Highlands. I believe that is probably the most beautiful place that you ever visit anywhere in the world. And I've been to a couple of places. We don't talk often about the beauty of some of the places that we come from. So I am absolutely passionate about where I come from. I was born there in Mutare General Hospital. Spent my childhood actually in the dusty streets of Langambura in Mutare, and I had very, very fond memories. As I was saying a couple of days ago, growing up in Sakuba with my grandmother. So if you're looking for a definition, I'm just was a tall, lanky boy that grew up in Mutare with a shiny head that used to be spread with Vaseline and walking to school on a daily basis as well, like all the other kids that grew up at that time with me. But I don't come from a rich family. Like I said, I think I exist really because of the toiling of my mother. I already told you that I was raised by a single mom. And like many who grew up in my generation, I think my mother was an absolute pillar for me. Was responsible for my upkeep really from the point that I was born up to adulthood. Grew up again, just like you, I'm sure, and like many who are listening, with 10, 11 cousins, because everybody who was a child of within the family was your brother. We don't know the concept of a cousin in my family, and I'm sure many would identify. I would wake up every morning, I was told, he's your brother, he's your sister. So I grew up with many people I identified as brothers and sisters, but not necessarily blood, but because we were part of a much bigger extended family. One of the central pillars in my life was my grandmother, and again a very, very strong woman. She operated a market store at Sakuba market, a vegetable market. I have fond memories of going there every school holiday, and every time I get there, she would give me one basket full of bananas and apples and stuff. Those are some of my happiest moments actually as a child. But growing up was tough. I think resources were scarce. I went through a school really through the benevolence of many who were around me, aunties, uncles, and all sorts. But I must say that I pay tribute to the hard work of my mother. One of the things that endears that I always remember is that our mothers and those who came before, especially I'm sure that I speak to many as well who are listening, is that they used to do a lot of things that we don't see now anymore. I'm a product of that mother who went to South Africa with my Doris, trying to raise school fees for me to go to school. So you can see some of the strengths that was there. My grandmother, of course, like I said, was running a vegetable store. So that's how I grew up. So if you see me sitting here, I'm a CEO, a product of the hard work of many within my family who sacrificed so that I go through school. My father eventually got deceased, but they separated with when I was very young. He also passed away while I was at university. A very difficult moment, but I didn't know him. I didn't know him as much as I needed to. One of my greatest regrets, of course, that I didn't have that close a relationship with him. So from a very young age, I knew that I needed to be strong. I needed to be strong not only for my mother but for myself. So that I stand up, and there come a point where you realize that if you don't do it for yourself, you are going to end up either in an orphanage or you're going to end up in poverty. So I realized at that moment when I was very young, when I was in grade 7 actually, I remember this, and I think funny story is when I was in grade 1 up to grade 7, I used to be an extremely dull student, if I were to put it that way, or maybe not as hardworking as I needed to be. So I would be number 28 out of 30 sometimes. But I think when I was in Form 1, I realized that I needed to change course. I needed to do something different. That's when I believe that I started to adopt some principles at that age that have defined who I am. I think before I even get to the University of Zimbabwe, one of the most defining moments in my life was not at university, it was actually when I went to high school. So I went to high school in a little obscure boarding school on the site of Kwekwe, that's called Rio Tinto Jombe High. It's just before Gokwe, about 80 kilometers out of Kwekwe. Again, not a top A school, but when I was there, I made one commitment to myself that I was going to work as hard as possible to achieve what I wanted to achieve in life. I remember setting myself a goal that I wanted not only to be top student in my class, in my school, I wanted to be top student in my region. And I remember this one moment when I was writing my A-level English paper. I literally collapsed because I had worked so hard. I had read, I remember, about 48 hours throughout the day. I'd taken little tablets that at the time, yellow tablets, they called them peppermints. I believe they were designed not to make you sleep so that you could study as many hours as possible. But by the morning of the exam, I was exhausted. So I was admitted into hospital. I think early in the morning, around 4 or 5. I wrote my English paper on the hospital bed. So I insisted that I wanted to go through and write that paper. And guess what? After that, I emerged as a top student in my school. I also emerged as a top student in my region. And I think that is something that I had set for myself as a goal. By the time I went to university, I already knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to achieve. I'm led by one principle. Like I said, I've not always been one of the smartest kids in the room. But my principle has always been that if I can't outsmart you, I have to outwork you. So I believe that hard work is more important than talent, and I say it on many platforms that I go to, because I am a living testament of it. That if you work just a little bit harder than those who are talented, who are at least more talented or more intelligent than you, commit a bit more hours than others who are probably a bit more talented than you, you can probably equalize and you can achieve as much as those who are talented, even if you are not as talented yourself. I think at the time I did 4 subjects, again because I didn't want to leave anything to chance. I wanted to make sure that I was doing the best that I can, and I did 18 points on the 4. And I think it was really a proud moment. At the time, I know that right now it's fashionable for all these kids to have 25, 30 points, all sorts. At the time that I grew up, getting 18 points was a big deal. I think it was a very difficult time, thing to achieve. And it was a proud moment, and I was incredibly happy with the achievement. Yes, I was in it. I need to retrace. I believed quite strongly in hard work. I had a nickname actually when I was still at school. In fact, there was something that we used to say at school, which was called Mandigo. Mandigo meant study at night. So I was the chief of Mandigo, and I'll be studying literally throughout the night, right into sunrise, particularly for my A levels. So yes, you could say that I was also an assistant librarian. I remember fondly my librarian is a lady called Mrs. Juma, almost took me as her son, because I was the first one to get into the library, and I was also the last one to leave. I would really literally arrange all the books and knew each book that I needed to know by heart. I was just that much committed into my studies. I wouldn't say I had a mentor at the point. I didn't know what a mentor was at the time. Of course, like many, there are people that we grow up admiring and wanting to be. And I can tell you that there are many people that have crossed my path who have contributed into who I am, who I believe that I have become. Fond memories of an incredible teacher at high school called Mr. Sondo, and our science teacher. Quite instilled a lot of qualities in me in leadership, in discipline, and in hard work. And he also took me in almost as a son. And in many instances where I struggled, to make ends meet. In fact, I remember a couple of holidays, particularly in my final years, when I didn't want to go home, and I spent my entire holiday, in fact 3 of my holidays in 1 year at school. When other kids had closed and packed their trunks to go back, I was working in a couple of teachers' houses because I just wanted to have that extra time to study and to prepare for the next course. So of course my science, my English teacher then was a lady called Mrs. Nube. I remember all of them fondly because they played such an integral part into my life growing up. Of course, I also then had people I admired later on in life, but I think at the principal, or rather when I was growing up, my teachers at that level had major contribution to life. Of course, I had a girlfriend. What did you take me for? A funny story actually is that I had a girlfriend. I know this is going to be aired publicly, and she will not forgive me for saying this, but I had a girlfriend at Rio Tinto, Zimbabwe High, and this lady was absolutely smart. She was at the point one of the best students in our class. I think my decision then to ask her to be my girlfriend, which something that we do at that age, is because we were both nerds, we were both after exactly the same thing. But my cynical plan was to make sure that I get just a little bit more of her knowledge so that it rubs on me. Sadly, she left me and went to Chaplain High and then married somebody else. I could have been married to my high school sweetheart right now, but that is high school love, isn't it? In that everybody you meet, you think that they're going to be your future wife. But yeah, that's how it goes. It was again very, very serious, but a little bit more relaxed. So I went to the University of Zimbabwe to study law, and the reason I studied law actually was because I had so many points, like I said, and when you have had so many points, and you are coming out of the arts field, so you are always going to be forced into what is the cream of the arts subjects, and that was law. So that's how I ended up studying law, because I had a huge admiration for it. I don't think that there's any kid who grew up in the time that I grew up who didn't love LA Law and all those fanciful shows. That kind of taught us that practicing law was good. It was probably one of the best careers. But I must say that law taught me a lot of dexterity in thinking. It also taught me really a lot of the things that I am today, because it teaches you a lot of lateral thinking actually. It teaches you to be very analytical and really to be surgical in the way that you approach any subject. So I wasn't top of my class in my law school. When you are coming from all sorts of schools, you then also meet other kids who are much smarter than you. But I sailed through, did okay. But even at university, I remember that I always remember being extremely focused in what I was doing. I always wore a suit. I don't understand how and why I always wore a suit. If I show you some of my pictures, you would think that I was Michael Jackson then, because we had custom-made suits, some of them yellow, some of them with little strips going down. But that was growing up at university, and of course you are finding yourself at university. You're also trying to challenge yourself intellectually, and in as far as your space in life is concerned. But I've always had that fierce determination that I wanted to do well in whatever that I was setting my course to do, and I'm glad that that kind of paid off getting into university. I have done extremely well for them. So Alex Bagaisa is one of them. So Alex Bagaisa was in my class. A couple of other people who were just slightly around my street is Bettina Gaba, was yes my senior, but somebody that I also hugely respected. Brian Gagoro was a couple of years again ahead of me, but again people that I had a huge respect for. One of my friends, Tawanda Hodora, is actually at Amnesty International, or was at Amnesty International, and then eventually left. So there are quite a number of people that we went to school together who have really started to distinguish themselves in a number of things that they do. So I made the decision to go into practice. When I was at university, about to finish, I crossed over and did my attachment at a firm of a celebrated lawyer. I don't know if you remember this gentleman. His name was Advocate Adrian Zimbabwe. He worked at Harare Law Chambers and was practicing at the time with a gentleman called Firoz Girash. So that's where I went for my attachment at almost like the top of the legal profession then. So after that, I then was approached to become a professional assistant, as they call them then, at a firm called Zamchia Costa. If you recall, there was a gentleman who sadly passed away called David Zamchia, who was really a corporate guru, sat on a number of boards across the country. That's where I started my legal career. I did 2 years, about 1.5 years there. Didn't quite like it as much as I thought that I would have. And I decided that I needed to do something different at the time. I was, like I said, extremely driven. I've always been an adrenaline person. I like fast-paced environments. I also like, a lot of challenges. And I felt like a law, as rich as it was not giving me some of the drive that I was looking for. So I decided to change. I decided to move into a different career. So I in my transition actually as part of this, I applied for a role to be legal assistant to Tawanda Nyambirai. Tawanda Nyambirai at the time was general manager at NMB in the corporate finance department. So I joined Tawanda Nyambirai, assisted him in the legal matters, but then also transitioned, started doing corporate finance then. So I did corporate finance for NMB as one of the assistant managers and managers there. That's when I fell in love with banking. So I fell in love with banking at NMB way back then, coming straight in from a law school, from a law practice. So I did that for about 2 years. Whilst I was doing that, I handled a portfolio that was called Personal Wealth Management, which was pretty much doing banking services for the rich, which is structuring their assets and some of their portfolios. So and I managed to interact with quite a lot of people. I believe that I was fairly good at what I did. So I met Nigel Chanakira, and Nigel Chanakira a few years later asked me to head one of his units, which was called Kingdom Private Bank then. So I went to Kingdom as MD of Kingdom Private Bank. Again, the idea was to provide personal wealth management services to successful people in the country. And Nigel Chanakira has remained one of my closest friends now, and in fact one of my mentors as well growing up, because he again was quite responsible for some of my worldview and really that go-getter attitude of really saying that you can be anything that you desire to be if you have enough grit, enough determination, and enough fight really to see a much more wider view of the world. absolutely no idea. I need to ask them this question too. I've always said that in most roles that I have done, I've been an accidental CEO, in that I've not applied to be a CEO for any position that I've been. I think I've held about 4 or 5 CEO positions now since leaving Kingdom Private Bank. I then went on to be CEO at TN Asset Management at the time. But I again did that accidentally because I had left Kingdom Private Bank because I wanted to start my PhD in the UK. So whilst I had about a year after having been given a scholarship by the British Council, Tawanda Nyambrai approached me again and said, you know what, do you want to be CEO of this unit for the time? And again, an incredible time in my career. So I did that and left and went to the UK. Spent about 11, 12 years of my life there. When I finished my PhD, then I was asked to be CEO at Stewart Bank. So it kind of is an interesting trajectory. But what do people see in me? I have no idea. You will have to ask them. What I learned there is that I love home. Because the diaspora is an incredibly difficult place to be, but I kid you, I think it's been an incredible being part of the diaspora. Being in the diaspora really opens your mind to something that's extremely enlarged. I prefer to look at it this way, that when you're growing up in a village and you own a bottle store in a village, people will learn to admire you as the most successful person in the village. When you come to Harare and you see that success is not measured by bottle stores, it's measured by other bigger assets, your aspirations become higher and they also become grander. So I learned exactly the same thing, that when you go outside the country, you realize that Zimbabwe is so small. In fact, our totality as a GDP and as a country is almost matching one little city in England. So when you have a much wider worldview, you become a lot more daring. You also learn that there are different ways of doing what we've been doing. So I guess my drive always in finding a different route to doing one thing and always improving them is because I've seen that we can always do something better. With what we have, and there's always an opportunity to improve whatever scenario that you're facing. I had to take all the credit for it. I think that I was just incredibly privileged to serve a good set of people who shared my values and also my beliefs in transformation and innovation. I just want to reel back and again tell you that my philosophy has always been that there is a different way to do whatever, and that if you actually believe that you can change something, you probably will. And if you look at something just a little bit different from what is sustaining, there's always a better way of doing something that is currently sustaining. And that is the principle that I believe we managed to instill in each other at Stewart Bank, in that we dared to believe. I've always been one quirky kid who is an outsider, who believes in the extraordinary, really, just so that you can achieve extraordinary results. I believe that nothing great has ever been achieved in the middle. If you're going to achieve something great, you always need to sit on the edge. So I like operating on the edge of reason. I like I said to you, I'm an octane energy kind of person. So my pace, no matter where I have the privilege of working, has to be at the speed of light. And if people are around me and they are not working at that frantic pace, I'm not really privileged with a lot of patience. I'm not a very, very patient person. So I like speed, I like execution. I believe that the world, we make the world different because of the things that we execute, and not necessarily because of the things that we think of. I gave an example a couple of days ago that there are 7 billion people in the world. And of 7 billion people in the world, at any given point, 100,000 people are thinking of exactly the same idea. The only difference between those who succeed and those who fail is that a few of them decide to implement what they are thinking of. So action defines who we are. We become successful largely because of things that we action, not necessarily because of things we think of. So whatever idea you have and whatever thought process we have, we're daring enough to try it, whether it will succeed or fail. And I believe that innovation is the only constant. I also believe that you're only as good as your last innovation. So you can be good last month because you innovated something, but we've forgotten about it. So we're a fast-paced world. We want to constantly change, and innovation is nothing if it's not changing people's lives. Innovation is really about making people's lives better, more efficient, and much cheaper, especially if it's a product that you're offering. Well, because it's BancABC, firstly, but every institution is different. I again had the privilege of being invited here to become a part of the growth story, and that has a great appeal to me because I believe that BancABC has incredible potential, has played a critical role in this country, actually, in supporting a lot of businesses, whether it's in funding or in just really providing financial thought leadership and support. And I wanted to be a part of that story. I wanted to be a part of the revival again of BancABC, so that we are bringing it into the consciousness of people as a relevant financial institution that is actually doing something that is contributing to the economic growth of the country. One thing that concerns me with where we are is that we have failed as a generation, I suppose, to look at the bigger picture, because we are so consumed by our challenges and not necessarily the opportunities that exist. So if you look at some of the things that we've been doing here, it's really just to speak a lot more about partnerships, about the things that we can do together as companies and as a country, so that we just improve our livelihoods and become better as a country. And I believe that if we are collaborative and we do things together, that's how we improve as a nation. I think BancABC, as you already know, is set up as a Pan-African institution, currently operating in about 7 African countries as we speak, and that is of great appeal to me. I believe that if we are going to be good in Zimbabwe, we really need to be good anywhere else. If we are going to offer a product or to work on a product or a service in Zimbabwe, that product or service needs to be good in Bari as it is in London, or as it is in Kenya, or as it is in any other country. And I think that Pan-African view is of significant importance to me. And I again strongly believe in digitization. I think that has been my DNA, and I have the privilege here of doing just a couple of more crazy things, just so that we can improve, the way that our customers interface with BancABC, and I consider it an incredible challenge, and I can tell you that I am absolutely loving it. I think we are quite aggressive in this area, particularly on entrepreneurs. We've taken the view of partnership, like I said to you. I was giving an example of some entrepreneurs that we have interfaced with before. Examples being, Takwana Trianani, who walked into my office a couple of months ago and said that, you know what, no bank wants to partner with me, but I have a vision of establishing a remittance business. I'm Zimbabwean, I'm living in London, I've got a little bit of a business. What I want to do is a bank that can support me so that I launch a remittance business. And we said, why not? Let's partner with you, let's give you the means to grow. Right now, Sendito is in the process of integrating with all of our branches. And we want it to be competing with other remittance businesses that are operated by international conglomerates. So that is what we are passionate about, which is supporting entrepreneurs like Takwana, supporting entrepreneurs like Chad, who is running Chicken Hut, so that we can take them to the next level. And I think if we can cause an impact or change the business trajectory of somebody, or at least a few of the entrepreneurs that we are interfacing with, we've done our job. On students, we are again very, very active in supporting schools, in supporting just learning and development. Just the other day, our team in strategy and in marketing invited students from neighboring Girls Eye and we hosted them here for an afternoon. We wanted them to integrate with some of the things that we do, gave them a little bit of mentorship so that they know what it is like to be a CEO. They were working with me and they were working with the entire team, because that's what we believe in doing, which is equipping the next generation so that they're doing better than we have done, and that whatever they do, they at least do it 10 times faster and 10 times better than we have ever done. So I think no matter what sector we operate in, we like to be causing just a little bit more impact and influence into the people we interface with. We met at church many years ago before before we went to the UK. Actually, blessed with two beautiful kids. My daughter is 8, and my son is going to St. John's next year. Yeah, you can see the state of my house right now. I think it's an incredible pandemonium, but happiness none the same. So I'm incredibly proud of them and what they have done in supporting me. My net worth, I'm not going to tell you. If I tell you that, then I will have to kill you or something. But I'm not driven by materialism, and I need to be very clear on this. I believe that whatever we do, what is most important is that we are actually causing a difference and a change in somebody else's life, and not necessarily because we are building 3-4 houses. I can only live in one house. I can only drive one car at any given point. So I don't particularly believe in accumulation. I believe in influence, and I think what is more important to me is not necessarily what I'm worth, but what I'm worth to others, because I have impacted or influenced their life to be better than it is today. Of course, I've got a lot of colleagues and a lot of friends as well. One of my greatest friends was Danny Marandure, who was the former CEO of Zoe. He's still with Econet Group, but has left now and is now part of the Liquid Group in South Africa. Natalie Javangwe is the CEO of EcoCash. She's another very, very good friend of mine. In fact, we lived in the UK together, came to join the Econet Group again exactly at the same time. So I count quite a number of corporate leaders as either colleagues or friends, because we get to interact on many platforms and share ideas. I absolutely admire again some of the colleagues I talk to, like Lazarus Mchenje, who's again doing incredible things at Net1. Chipo Mtasa, I always say that when I grow up I want to be Chipo Mtasa, because she is an incredible role model for all of us, because of the way that she has had to drive. She's just really been bulldozing, shattering all glass ceilings really, and showing us that there's a better way of doing, of running instead of competition. If you were to ask me for the greatest challenge that I have ever had to overcome, I think it was realizing that, as I've always said, is in overcoming diversity. Lack, if you were to call it, in that your background sometimes can stand as a hindrance to your progress and your growth. And I tend to think that a lot of people are defined or choose to confine themselves because of their background, because of where they come from. I can't achieve this because nobody in my clan or in my house has ever gone to college. I'm too short, I'm too tall, or I am this, I'm fat, I'm slim, and stuff. Oh, I'm from Kwazana, I'm from Mavuku, I'm from Borodale. I think that I believe I'm living testament that no matter where your background, no matter where you come from, no matter your circumstances, perhaps there's one little kid in Sakupa who is listening to me, who will also say, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be a CEO just like him. And when they do so, I want their parents to agree, because we've at least left a little bit of a legacy of who we are and what we have done in business, just to inspire somebody to be different. I just wanted to say that for me, and the way that I look at some of the little things that we have done, is I believe that no matter our imperfections as human beings, one of our greatest responsibilities as leaders is just to us to inspire others, really to be better and to wake up and to try again. If I achieve anything in my station, it's just really to inspire one or two other people so that they are waking up tomorrow and they're choosing or endeavoring to be different than what they have been told that they can become. We are on a very, very difficult trajectory. I don't need to tell you, I don't need to tell your listeners or your viewers. I think that I however believe that what we're going through right now needed to be done. I think we have existed as an economy with such inefficient capital allocation for many, many years. That has distorted the fundamentals of what we are and what we have come to be. And as a result, I think because of some of the policies that we adopted over the last couple of years, we've actually seen the decimation of companies that we were so proud of one time. I was giving the example a couple of days ago, was it yesterday or so? In fact, 2 days ago, when I was saying that there was a time when we used to be proud of Vaseline, we used to be proud of Lobel's bread. There was a time we used to be proud of stock margarine, and there was a time we used to be proud of national blankets and all these local products that we grew up knowing. Dairyboard being another, but most of those companies are either struggling or have closed. I think what we need to do as a country is really go through a period of introspection and say, what is it that we did wrong over the last couple of years, so that we can correct and again be proud of the environment in which we operate, and also so that we can support the companies that are striving to do better in this country and that they can come out on the other side. So yes, we have a lot of challenges. I also believe that those challenges might sustain for a while. I hope that at the end of these challenges we will come out with a stronger economy and at least an economy that you and I can be proud to leave as an inheritance to our children. I believe that the challenge that we have, particularly for entrepreneurs right now, is conformity. If you were to ask me, I think I would say that the opposite of courage actually for entrepreneurs is conformity. It's not necessarily cowardice. In many instances, what we are doing as entrepreneurs is that we are doing exactly the same thing. We're not building anything and we are not creating value for our customers. I was jokingly saying that we have one legacy as a generation, and that legacy is that we have actually become a car sales generation. So what we like to do is that we don't want to build anything, we want to sell cars. So if you look at what we have done with our real estate, instead of building high-rise buildings, we are building car sales. And car sales, basically buying a product from somewhere and reselling it to somebody, and then 2 years later we recycle that car again and selling it. You don't grow an economy by selling something that somebody else has manufactured. We grow an economy because we are building businesses that are going to last for generations. So I believe if I were to give a challenge to entrepreneurs, it's for us to build something, for us to stand for something, and for us really to create value. Because I believe that entrepreneurship is really the art of finding a problem and really monetizing that problem by providing a solution. I believe as a country we have a lot of those problems. Perhaps we are not taking enough advantage to monetize or to provide the solutions that people need so that we are improving people's lives. What does future hold for me? I believe that I probably have just started on a remarkable journey. If I were to count on where I am and really the footprints of what I've done, I do not have a crystal ball. I don't know what the future holds. I am much wiser every day, and I hope that by the grace of God, I'll just be able to make a bigger contribution to my country and to our economy, and also into the lives of people in whatever capacity, whether that capacity is sweeping floors, whether that capacity is really just to hold somebody's back. I don't believe that leadership is a position. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is about influence. So where I have an opportunity really to influence people, whether those people is my family, or it's a fellow Zimbabwean, or it's another company in which I have the privilege to serve, I would consider that as one of my biggest and highest calling. I'm not a politician. I have no desire to be one. I was just about to use, the usual cliche that politicians use, unless my people ask me to be a politician. but no, I do not have a political ambition. And like I said, no matter where I'm called to serve, I would rather serve really just to impact people and to cause just some change or some positive impact into somebody's life. That's where I believe that I'm called to serve. I always say this everywhere that I speak, because I believe in it. Because I believe in human beings. I believe in humanitarianism. I believe that as human beings, we are better if we are motivating each other to do better, and if we are also standing with each other just so that we are improving each other's lives. That's why I say, do good by you. When done, try and do good by others.